How's it going? Okay. We want to talk about negative ions, positive ions, and all the shit I'm learning because my brain's going way too fucking fast again with information, receiving too much information from books and reading, and I've elevated my consciousness again, so I'm going to try and get this information out there. The obvious stuff, right? Negative ions. Positive ions. Air, electricity. Air. There's always something happening with air, right? There's always something happening with air. Every air and breath every component of air that we breathe in that we need to survive, and we're taking in a lot, 24,000 litres every day of air. It's either good air, bad air, or neutral air. But the key to air purification and the healing of the human avatar is positive versus negative ions, and it's such a huge topic. I bought a book a few months ago called called The Happiness Effect. I didn't buy it because I didn't go on Amazon and type in happiness effect. What I did was I typed in negative ions because I was interested in. The longest time I've been interested in negative ions. Another factor that made me interested in negative ions is when we found out recently, last year, that aged urine has negative ions. So does some kind of alkaline waters, but aged urine definitely contains a lot of negative ions. So that kind of piqued my interest in it. Then we found out about air and about the beach last year at some point, and then the countryside having negative ions, the beach having negative ions, mountains having negative ions. So anyway, a couple of months ago I bought this. I read it a couple months ago. I reread it recently. Fascinating. There's too much information in this small book for me to research, connect the dots with, right? But I will, because I'm coming up with mastery of a lot of things. One of the things I'm going to master is negative ions. Not just action on it. Like, I'm going camping soon, I'm going to be surrounded by beach negative ions. I mean, I'm going to become a master at explaining it in a very simple way. All the studies and information we've got on negative ions, that's what I mean. That's going to come. I've got a lot of shit to come, a lot. However, when I was going through again on Amazon, negative ions, there was only 2 books on negative ions. That was one of them, and another one. But I looked on the intro previews, and anyway, cut a long story short, and another series of fucking coincidences, I found a book that you can't even find if you type in negative ions on Amazon. But this book, holy fucking shit. It's called The Truth About... Yeah, it's not called Negative Ions in the title, that's the thing. It's called The Truth About Air, Electricity and Health. It costs £10, £11 in UK money. Air, electricity, and it's all about negative ions and positive ions. And I've just started reading it. And I knew it was going to be good because I looked at the preview, but holy shit, whoa, this is the one. Brian, if you're Doc, you need to buy this book, bro. You're going to love this book. This book is so fucking nutrient dense in information and explained in the simple, yet there's a lot of, it might be some things are simple, yet, which I'll talk about in a bit, some really simple shit, but at the same time there's a lot of information where I'm thinking, oh shit, I'm connecting the dots with a lot of stuff because it studies. There's another book like the other one that has so much to research on it. It's scary, actually. It's quite scary. Anyway, negative ions. Fascinating subject. There's one thing I want to talk to you a little bit about. Negative ions I find kind of interesting. When we come to the city, the city air we know is not full of negative ions. It's full of positive ions, right? We know that the aged urine has negative ions, so that's liquid form of negative ions. We know that the air from beaches, because of the water, when it crashes on the rocks and the waves, what happens is the displacement and power of water, the power of water hitting a system like the crashing of waves on the beach, crashing of waves on the rocks, it displaces the oxygen, negative ion, and the electrons in the water, and those electrons fly and join to the air. So displacement of water is one way that negative ions are generated. Also waterfalls. So the water crashes on something. Also when we take a shower, although most people are taking bullshit showers, but I'm just making a point. When lots of the things, when the water crashes against the surface of something, it displaces the electrons, and they attach to the air, then it becomes a negative ion charged substance. So we've got the beach, the mountains, we've got countryside, and all these kind of things. And of course the city's the opposite. The city's got these ions get to positive ions, and elevators, conditioning, and all that stuff. One of the information I found quite fascinating with it, as I'm learning through, this is not really a I know a lot video, this is more like me just trying to, spread awareness and connect dots for myself. The ground too, by the way. Oh, that's another huge one. Holy shit, the ground has loads of negative ions. Now, that's why grounding works. Because negative ions are generated by thunderstorms, and the thunder comes down, and there's always a thunderstorm on the Earth, by the way. Every second, I think the stats are every second, every day there's a thunderstorm somewhere in the UK. And each thunderstorm, is thunder or lightning, as it strikes the Earth, it dumps a shit ton of negative ions. And that's the theory, and I think it's correct, behind why at any moment the ground, the surface of the ground, the grass, the sea, the sand, is connected with negative ions. So the ground's negative ions, we've got liquid negative ions from aged urine, for example, and then we've got negative ions from the air created, and then they've also got negative ions from the ground, which are gaseous in form. Now, I think I've always wondered this for a long time. What kind of format is the ground, the negative ions from grounding? Is it a liquid, kind of? It might be stupid and naive of me, but I thought it might be a liquid. It might be a liquid negative ion, but I don't think it is. It's a gaseous. The grounding, what happens when we ground and touch our skin to the surface of the ground, is we get negative ions in gaseous form going through into our skin. Now, okay, follow me here. This is going to be not a little bit complicated, but this makes sense. I've connected the dots with the book I've just reading, and it makes sense to me. Now, the Earth has a system where there's balance between positive and negative ions. Yeah, it's not all fully negative, although fully negative ions does heal you. The balance system is this. The ground create, and the trees and the plants too, by the way, they create negative ions, but it's the ground mainly, through the lightning strikes, creates negative ions. So the surface of the entire Earth, right, the surface of the entire Earth is negatively ion charged. The positive ions come from the sun, right? Okay, we know the sun heals, but the sun is positively ion charged, and when it hits down on us, this is why free radicals are created, because of the positive ions from the sun when it hits our skin, when it comes into our eyes, all that shit. That doesn't mean it's bad. It's got a lot of other amazing benefits. I fucking love sun. I'm just making a point to you. There's a duality going on there, a balancing. The positive comes from above, from the sun, when it hits down, and that's balanced out by the ground from the electronic charge of the negative ions. Now, so when we ground, that's one huge reason, very obvious, you guys already know this, why we get healing benefits, because we get negative ions in a gaseous state coming into the skin. But beyond that, because the entire surface area of the ground is negatively charged, there's a leakage, right, get this, there's a leakage of negative ions designed by nature upwards. So because there's a high tension between the positive at the top and the negative at the bottom, the leakage is this: the ground emits negative ions. The ground, the grass, the soil, the sand, all of them emit negative ions. So technically, what I'm saying is, even if you didn't ground, you'd be receiving air. If it's from a countryside, right? If there's a space or a huge plot of land that's all grass, massive, say acres and acres, that entire field of acres is producing is emitting negative ions from the ground into the air for you. It's cleaning up the air. Yeah. So we can ground and do the hack. That's the hack for us. That's the hack. We can do the grounding, or we can, and look what I just said. The ground emits negative ions from nature, from soil that's untampered with, from grass that's untampered with. Now, what we do in the cities is we cover up nature. We put concrete roads, concrete pavements, asphalt roads. We put bullshit that covers the natural and destroys the natural surface area of the grass, the soil, and the sand. So now we have negative ions from the ground being plugged up. Negative ions from the ground are plugged up. Therefore, they don't get emitted, and therefore that's a huge reason, on top of a million other factors, why city air is impure. You're dealing with air conditioning, it's positive ions. You're dealing with toxins from factories, from plastics, from farms, from the building, from the room I'm in right now. I mean, from everything. But on top of that, cities completely take away the opportunities to ground, but more than that, there is no negative ions coming up from the ground because it's covered by concrete asphalt, which completely stops the nature's way of healing us, which would have been grounding. But also beyond that, I don't think we would have even needed to ground in the past, right? Because if we had pure land and it was no city bullshit, no concrete and asphalt roads, all the negative ions from the ground in the gaseous form would have come up. And when they come in the gaseous form, the ground, they go into the nose. That's why the countryside has a very high level of negative ions. Because of the plants and the trees emit negative ions by photosynthesis. Oh, this book is great, by the way, guys. I'm getting this information from this book, but it makes sense to me. So plant trees emit negative ions from just photosynthesis from the sun. Crazy as that. But also, in the countryside, you've got not as much asphalt, concrete, and things blocking. You've just got grass mostly, and soil and sand, isn't it, in the countryside? Just soil and grass and dirt. And that means the ground is full of negative ions, and that means there's nothing to stop the negative ions coming from the bottom to the air, and it purifies the air. Now, there's studies been done that the countryside air has a high amount of negative ions, not as much as a waterfall, not as much as the beach, not as much as high mountain areas, but it does. The countryside is very good. Certainly, I've noticed for myself, whenever I go to the countryside, or I'm on a journey, even on a bus, and it's in the country, my state and mood changes. And trust me, negative ions is an absolutely great focus area. This is a focus area, and let me tell you, it's a huge reason. Not only is it negative ions for health, people heal going to the mountains. People heal living at the beach, doing nothing else for their health. They just go when they're ill. There's stories I'm reading in this book of people just going to the mountains, going to live in a beach, and doing nothing else for their health and curing themselves. But not only this, grounding. That's why it works. And I think, like I said, it's a huge topic area. Now, we all know aged urine is super fucking powerful. We also know that there's a lot going on with aged urine that will probably... It's going to take a long time to discover. But let me tell you what we do know. Now. Aged urine has the most ridiculous abundant amount of negative iron. It's just a couple of weeks old, by the way. After a month or two, fucking hell. I bought a negative iron machine too, an AUP meter, so we'll do more postings on that, on exactly how many negative ions in a couple of weeks old, so that's to come for me. But in the meantime, one of the huge reasons why it works, and that's why I put it in I'm so glad I put it in my book on aged urine. I put the negative ions as a huge reason why it fucking works, and we can prove it with a meter. Negative ions, whether in liquid or gaseous, it has the same benefits. It's the same benefits. It's fucking amazing, incredible, and it's a huge reason why aged urine works. It's just energy systems, it's purity, it's the way to get out of the city where it's got poison air. If you live in a poison environment, you're surrounded by EMFs, surrounded by positive ions, closed windows, sick building syndrome, air conditioning in your house. You can't get away from that shit. You have to double down in these situations in aged urine. If you don't, anyway, you live in the jungle, you're surrounded by waterfalls, you're surrounded by the beach, full of negative ions, you're in the countryside, still do aged urine. Holy shit, because aged urine is the hack, where in a couple of seconds of drinking, of sipping, just tiny amounts, man, just a tiny fucking amount of this shit, yeah, just a tiny amount, you sip a little bit, you're just splodging your entire system with negative ions. Not just like from, put it a bit like this, sipping like a couple of weeks old aged urine, sipping a little bit, gives you the same amount of negative ions as like 10 hours consistently of grounding. That's the kind of shit I mean. How do I know that? And to make that kind of a bold statement, because I've done both, and I can feel the quality. I know exactly the activation a couple of just a small amount of drinking a few weeks old gives me in comparison to 10 hours non-stop of grounding, which, by the way, is very healthy too. I just know that I know what I'm saying is fucking true. It's unreal, fucking aged urine. And negative ions is fucking a huge reason why it's powerful. Yeah, I've done it. That's a detour. Guys, you have to, if you want to get ahead in life, I'm afraid you have to read books too, you know. It's good, the internet and stuff, and learning, experiencing, and all that nature, but I'm exaggerating slightly, get ahead, but I'm a geek. If you're a fucking geek, start reading books, man, and connecting dots and looking at the studies on negative ions, because it's a huge topic that, you know, again, not many people in the health community seem to talk about. Everyone's focused on diet and stuff, which is cool, but, oh man, negative ions, the information is out there, you just gotta connect the dots, or read books that connect the dots. So the happiness effect, type in the happiness effect and it will say the positive effect, but this is the one, man, this one, the truth about Air, Electricity, Health, which I said is not coincidence. I read it. This is a great book. The Truth About Air, Electricity, and Health by Rosalind Tam. So simply explained. And at the end, I haven't got to the end of it, by the way. I'm too excited to read it all in one go. And there's too much information. It's information overload with too much excitement. But also, at the end, there's a, what do you call it, bibliography of all the books that she's used to reference. So I've got a lot of shit. Like I said to you, it's a mastery that's really important, negative ions. And it's not even on the basis of, okay, pure air. So let's get it. Now I've got the mastery of pure air from, you know, living in the right place. But also, and also technology, because I think you can generate with the expensive shit, pure air. Not the cheap ones, that's my opinion. But also now we've got the aged urine, which we've got, it's like I said to you, it's a huge fucking focus area. Yeah, cheers Maggie, cheers Sarah. I've been, not hesitant, but this is not a video of my usual confident self, I guess, because I'm trying to figure out dots, and that's what I did with this video, like I did with the diabetes one I did a few days ago. I'm definitely not confident in what I'm saying, but I'm literally excited about what I'm learning about negative ions, like way excited. Before I go, one more quick thing. People think that you want to have loads of serotonin in your blood, and that's a good thing. And then I read, and I thought that too. And then I read The Happiness Effect. I reread it recently, and it said something that kind of touched a nerve with me. And it said that having too much serotonin in your blood is not a good thing, and it showed proof that it's actually bad to have too much serotonin in the blood. Yeah, to have too much serotonin in the blood is really dangerous. It causes something called serotonin irritation syndrome. So I thought after that, I need to do some research. It sounds legit. This guy's done research on it, and very profound studies on that shit. And then, to connect the dots even further, so it's linked in, by the way, negative ions with, and positive ions with, that's why it's in the book. Negative ions and positive ions are linked in with serotonin, having too much. In that study, it said that positive ions, which are bad for us, we know, generates too much serotonin, and too much serotonin causes serious fucking issues, that book said. And I was like, a negative ion seems to give the perfect amount of serotonin, take away, if you've got too many, it will take away. And also, then when I read The Truth About Electricity today, some of it, it said the same shit. It's referencing the same man, and now and other stuff about serotonin. So now I'm convinced that actually I think we've got it all wrong in the communities. We all say something really simple in the health community. You know what we say? We say, oh, sunlight produces serotonin, and we want loads of serotonin in our blood, isn't it? It's something everybody says. Like everyone in the health community, whether they're an expert or not, they all talk about it like serotonin. Like, don't send I'm not an expert on it, so I might be wrong here, but the gut produces more serotonin than anything, like, and it's really key for your gut digestion and stuff. People don't know that. They think it's all just a mood. Definitely know it's really good for the gut. But what people don't know is that there is such thing as too much, and if you're exposed to positive ions a lot, like you are in the city, you are fucked, because you have got too much serotonin. Too much serotonin, and people are like, but I thought serotonin was good. I need serotonin. I get serotonin from the sun. No, it's not good, man. Look into serotonin irritability syndrome, or stay with me for the next couple of years, because I'm going to talk big, and I'm going to slowly meld the minds of people that are watching my stuff to the idea that actually people don't have a lack of serotonin that are unhealthy, and you know, it's actually too much serotonin. If you're inhaling too much positive ions, bad air from the city, and you know, you never go to the beach, the mountains, you never drink aged urine, you never ground and get the negative ions in, you've got too many positive ions, you actually got too much serotonin. Most people got too much serotonin in their blood. Yeah, too much. Crazy. What do you mean, Harry? There we go. On that note, I will leave you. Yeah, Maggie, oh, the beach is amazing. Absolutely transformational experience in healing and power. I mean, it's, for people that got diseases, essential protocol, but for people like us, it just boosts your mood and gives the negative ions from the nose go straight to the brain, don't they? And they make you feel... I've made videos on this before. I love going to the beach, and I'm off to the beach. I'm going to the Isle of Wight in a few days, going around while camping. So I'm going to be doing aged urine, negative ions, and I'm going to be massaging and drinking, and also getting in the air. But yeah, it's so powerful to go to the beach for that. And do you know what I love about the masses in a way? I get it now, why people love the beach. It's not just a fucking, oh, I feel good at the beach, and, you know, a bit of a fucking, you know, have some fun. It's actually really fucking healthy, so I'm glad that humanity's got some things right, you know. Things might be going to shit, but we understand that people understand unconsciously that the beach feels good, the grounding, the sea air, you know, and sun. Anyway, right, that was it. That was my video on my beginning video to record to myself and laugh at how much of a newbie I was with what I was saying. 5-10 years down the line when I become an expert, or my version of mastery on so many health topics, diabetes. I've got to learn it. There's so much. I wouldn't say it's intimidating. That's the wrong word. But you've got to be happy with which stage of the journey you're at. So I'm a newbie. I consider myself, in my knowledge and how I talk of things, I consider myself a new person. However, I do recognise the advantage of the way of being a newbie into health, kind of in, and then having to learn more. I don't ever want to confuse people. I'm not. It's not my mission to talk high vibe and then to lose people. I'm talking to people the way I like about myself. I'm talking from the ground up. So I'm literally figuring out ways where I can get to people and to explain things in easy ways, because that's the key to health, in my opinion. You have to, it's like Einstein said, if you can't explain it to a 4-year-old, you don't really know the subject. You have to explain things easy. You might know a lot and have, to the person, yes, you have really high consciousness thoughts, but you might lose people too. You have to understand people are at all different levels, and my level might be very low, but it's got to be explained simply, because I think health is simple in a way of looking at it. It's complicated, but it's also simple. So you don't want to lose people by talking too much, airy-fairy, high vibe, and you want to understand the basics, and that's my mission here, to explain in a very simple way as I go through the simplicity myself, because I'm completely new to this. 3 years ago, completely, now obsessed, and now guaranteed for life. So whenever point I'm going to die, I don't think I'm ever going to fucking stop. It's going to be great. Oh, Brian, I think you'd be one of the few exceptions, bro, that would understand that serotonin is possibly be open-minded. You don't need to understand, that serotonin, it's not about having loads of serotonin because it's fucking unhealthy. It's not about understanding it, it's about being open-minded. But I'm telling you, I'm convinced. I'm going to do a shit ton more research, but it's not about, I need loads of serotonin because I feel depressed, I have low serotonin. And that also transfigures with the idea that serotonin, the antidepressant, society's got it wrong, the whole health community's got it wrong about serotonin. They've got it completely wrong. People are walking around with way too much serotonin, which is not a good thing. And what negative ions do is put your body back to perfect homeostatic function. So your body knows the ideal amount of all things like testosterone, serotonin, melatonin. Your body knows the ideal homeostatic amounts, and serotonin you don't want too much because it causes serious problems. I believe this to be true. Right, that being said, thank you very much. I appreciate you guys for watching and learning with me. I don't make these videos for myself, I learn them, I do them so I can see where you guys are at and help other people.